Hello and welcome to River Company's Zoom performance of George Bernard Shaw's How He Lied to Her Husband. We've adapted the original script to reflect current times. This performance is also a fundraiser to benefit the Ecumenical Food Pantry located in Newcastle, Maine. To donate, please click the link in the description below. For more information about River Company, please visit www.rivercompany.org and like and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at River Company Theater. Thank you and enjoy the show.
It is 7 o'clock in the evening in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic of 2020. People are encouraged to stay home, maintain 6 feet of distance between themselves and others, and to wear masks to limit disease transmission. Many people have turned to the internet for education, entertainment, and human connection. 2 such people have connected over Zoom this evening to enjoy a shared screen viewing of a film. Her lover, a beautiful youth, is well-groomed and dressed to the nines. He is, be it repeated, a very beautiful youth, moving as in a dream. He holds a bottle of sanitizer in his hand and occasionally pops the lid to take a sniff while he anxiously awaits for her to enter the Zoom meeting. He is taking another sniff when she comes in, much flustered. She is dressed for the evening, has spoiled petted ways, and wears a gorgeous string of pearls. She has an air of being a young and beautiful woman, but as a matter of fact, of hard fact, she is, dress and pretensions apart, a very ordinary South Bristol, Maine female of about 37, hopelessly inferior in physical and spiritual distinction to the beautiful youth, who hastily puts down the sanitizer as she enters.
At last, I've been calling for 10 minutes.
Henry, something dreadful has happened.
What's the matter?
I've lost your poems.
They were unworthy of you. I'll write you some more.
Oh, no, thank you. Never any more poems for me. Oh, how could I have been so mad, so rash, so imprudent?
Oh, thank heaven for your madness, your rashness, your imprudence.
Be sensible, Henry. Can't you see what a terrible thing this is for me? Suppose anybody finds the poems.
They'll think that a man once loved a woman more devotedly than ever a man loved a woman before. But they will not know what man it was.
Well, what good is that to me if everybody will know what woman it was?
How will they know?
How will they know? My name is all over them. My silly, unhappy name. Oh, if only I had been christened Mary or Jane or Kathy or Hillary or Amanda or something quite common. But Aurora. I am the only Aurora in all of Bristol. Everybody knows it. I believe I'm the only Aurora in Lincoln County. And it's so horribly easy to rhyme to it. Oh, Henry, why didn't you restrain your feelings a little in common consideration for me? Why didn't you write with some reserve?
Write poems to you with reserve. You ask me that.
Yes, dear. Of course, it was very nice of you. And I know it's my own fault as much as yours. I ought to have noticed that your verses never should have been addressed to a married woman.
How I wish they had been addressed to an unmarried woman. How I wish they had.
Indeed. You have no right to wish anything of the sort. They are quite unfit for anybody but a married woman. That's just the difficulty. What will my sisters-in-law think of them?
Have you got sisters-in-law?
Well, yes, of course. Do you think I'm an angel?
I do. Heaven help me, I do.
Listen to me, my dear. It's very nice of you to live with me in a dream and to love me and so on. But I can't help my husband having disagreeable relatives, now can I?
Of course, they are your husband's relatives. I forgot that. Forgive me, Aurora.
The fact is, Teddy's got nothing but relatives. He has 8 sisters, 6 half-sisters, and so many brothers. Now, I don't mind about the brothers. Now, if you knew anything about the world, Henry, you'd know that in a large family, the sisters quarrel with one another like mad all the time. Yet let one of their brothers marry, and they all turn on their unfortunate sister-in-law, devote the rest of their lives with perfect unanimity to persuading him that his wife is unworthy of him. They can do it to her very face without her knowing, because there are always a lot of stupid, low family jokes that nobody understands but themselves. Half the time you can't tell what they're talking about. It just drives you wild. There ought to be a law against a man's sister entering his house after he's married. I'm certain as I'm sitting here, that Georgina stole those poems from my desk.
Well, she won't understand them, I think.
Oh, won't she? She'll understand them only too well. She'll understand more harm than ever was in them. Nasty, vulgar-minded cat.
Don't think of people in that way. Don't think of her at all. Aurora, do you remember that evening when I sat there at your feet and read you those poems for the first time?
I shouldn't have let you. I see that now. When I think of Georgina sitting there at Teddy's feet, reading them to her for the first time, I'm afraid I'll lose my mind.
You're right. It'll be a profanation.
Oh, I don't care about the profanation, but what will Teddy think? What will he do? You don't seem to think a bit about Teddy.
To me, Teddy's nothing, and Georgina less than nothing.
You'll soon find out how much less than nothing she is. If you think a woman can't do harm because she's only a scandal-mongering dowdy hag, you're greatly mistaken. Henry, help me. Find a way out of this for me, and I'll bless you for as long as I live. Oh, I feel so wretched.
Oh, and how happy I am.
Don't be selfish.
Oh, yes, I deserve that. I think if I was going to the gallows with you, I'd still be so happy that I could hardly feel my own danger any more than yours.
Oh, you are a dear darling boy, Henry, but you're no use. I want someone to tell me what to do.
Your heart will tell you at the right time. I've thought deeply over this, and I know what we must do sooner or later.
Oh, Henry, I will do nothing improper, nothing dishonorable.
Well, if you did, you would no longer be Aurora. Our course is perfectly simple, perfectly straightforward, perfectly stainless and true. We love each other. I'm not ashamed of that. I'm ready to go out and proclaim it to all of Main Street as simply as I will declare it to your husband when you see, and you will see, that this is the only honourable thing for us to do. Let us go now and begin our own home this evening, without concealment and without shame. Remember, we owe something to your husband. We're his guests here. He's an honourable man and he's been kind to us. He has perhaps loved you as well as his prosaic nature and his sordid commercial environment permitted. We owe it to him, in all honour, not to let him learn the truth from the lips of a scandalmonger. Let us call him now, bid him farewell, and begin a new life without concealment and subterfuge, freely and honestly, in full honour and self-respect.
Henry, there is still a pandemic out there. And anyway, where will we go?
Let's not change our plans for this evening. We were going to watch a film when the loss of the poems compelled us to take action at once. Let's still watch the film, and then we will plan our departure into our new, simple life. You must leave those pearls behind, however.
Well, I've told you already that I hate pearls, only Teddy insists on hanging me all over with them. You needn't preach simplicity to me.
I never thought of doing so, dearest. I know these trivialities are nothing to you. What was I saying? Ah, yes. Tonight, you'll come with me to my home, now and henceforth our home, and in due course of time, when you're divorced, we shall go through whatever idle legal ceremony you may desire. I attach no importance to the law. My love was not created in me by the law. nor can it be bound or loosed by it. That is simple enough and sweet enough, is it not? I've rented the movie. We will ask your husband to watch it with us, to show there's no malice, no grudge between us.
Well, Teddy isn't home yet. He started working from the office again this week.
Well, let's take that calmly. We can watch the film now and tell him when he comes back. Now or 3 hours hence, today, tomorrow. What does it matter, provided all is done in honour, without shame and fear?
Well, then what did you rent? Cats?
I thought about that, but it didn't seem quite right.
Well, then what did you get?
Can you ask me? What is there beside cats that we two could endure except The Graduate?
The Graduate? No, I will not watch that again. Henry, it is that film that has done all this mischief. I'm very sorry I ever saw it. This all has to be stopped.
Aurora,
Yes, I mean it.
that divinest love poem. That poem that gave us the courage to speak to one another, that revealed to us how we really felt for one another. That wonderful, excellent poem.
Just so. It put a lot of stuff into my head that I never should have dreamt of myself. I imagined myself like Mrs. Robinson.
You're right. You're like Mrs. Robinson.
Oh, please. And I thought you were like Benjamin. Now that I come to look at you, you are rather like him, too.
Aurora, if Mrs. Robinson had loved Benjamin, she would have gone into the night with him without a moment's hesitation.
Henry, do you know what's wrong with that film? Except for the ending, where Benjamin runs off with Elaine.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about the ending. Well, there's nothing else wrong with it.
Yes, there is. There's a Georgina wanting in it. If Georgina had been there to make trouble, the film would have been a true-to-life tragedy. Now, I'll tell you something about that I've never told you before.
What is that?
Well, I watched the film with Teddy. I thought it would do him good, and it would have, if only I could have kept him awake. Georgina watched it with us, and you should have heard the way she went on about it. She said it was downright immoral, and she knew what sort of woman that would behave so inappropriately. She was just preparing Teddy's mind to be poisoned about me.
Let us be just to Georgina, dearest.
Let her deserve it first. Just to Georgina, right?
She really sees the world in that way, and that is her punishment.
How can it be her punishment when she likes it? It'll be my punishment when she brings that bundle of poems to Teddy. I wish you'd have some sense and sympathize with my position a little.
Oh, my dear, I really, really don't care about Georgina or about Teddy. All these squabbles belong on a plane on which I am, as you say, no use. I've counted the costs, and I do not fear the consequences. After all, what is there to fear? Where is the difficulty? Well, what can Georgina do? What can your husband do? What can anybody do?
Do you mean to say that you propose that we should walk right bang up to Teddy and tell him we're going away together?
Yes. Well, what could be simpler?
And do you think for a moment that he'd stand for it? Like that half-baked husband in The Graduate, Teddy would just kill you.
You don't understand these things, my darling. Well, how could you? In one respect, I am unlike that boy in the film. I have followed the Greek ideal and not neglected the culture of my body. Your husband would make a tolerable second-rate heavyweight if he were in training and 10 years younger. As it is, he could, if strung up to a great effort by a burst of passion, give a good account of himself for perhaps 15 seconds. But I'm active enough to keep out of his reach for 15 seconds, and after that I should simply be all over him.
What do you mean all over him?
Don't ask me, dear. At any event, I swear to you, you need not be anxious about me.
And what about Teddy? Do you mean to tell me that you're going to beat Teddy before my face like a prize fighter?
All this alarm, dearest, is needless. Believe me, nothing will happen. Your husband knows that I am capable of defending myself. Under such circumstances, nothing ever does happen. And of course, I shall do nothing. The man who once loved you is sacred to me.
Doesn't he love me still? Has he told you something?
Oh, no, no, dearest, dearest. How agitated you are, and how unlike yourself. All these worries that belong on the lower plane. Come up with me to the higher one, the heights, the solitudes, the soul world.
No, stop. It's no use, Mr. Apjohn.
Mr. Apjohn!
Oh, excuse me. I meant Henry, of course.
How could you even think of me as Mr. Apjohn? I never think of you as Mrs. Bompas. It's always Aurora, Aurora, Aurora. It's Aurora.
Yes, that's all very well, Mr. Apjohn.
What?
Well, no, it's no use. I've suddenly begun to think of you as Mr. Apjohn again, and it's ridiculous to go on calling you Henry. Look, I thought you were only a boy, a child, a dreamer. I thought you'd be too afraid to do anything. And now you want to beat Teddy and break up my home and disgrace me and make a horrible scandal in the paper. It's cruel, unmanly, cowardly.
Aurora, are you afraid?
Of course I'm afraid. You would be too if you had any common sense.
Oh, perfect love casteth out fear. That's why I'm not afraid. Mrs. Bompas, you don't love me.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You really can be very nice, Henry.
Oh, why are you thanking me?
For calling me Mrs. Bumpus again. Now I feel that you are going to be reasonable and behave like a gentleman. What's the matter?
Once or twice in my life, I have dreamed that I was exquisitely happy and blessed. But oh, the misgiving at the first stir of consciousness, the stab of reality, the prison walls of the bedroom. The bitter, bitter disappointment of waking. And this time, oh, I thought I was awake.
Listen to me, Henry. We really haven't got time for all that sort of flapdoodle now. Oh, Henry!
Beg your pardon. What is it you want me to do? I'm at your service. I'm ready to behave like a gentleman, if that's what you want. And you're ready to explain exactly how.
Thank you, Henry. I was sure you would. You're not angry with me, are you?
Go on quickly. Give me something to think about, or I will.
Oh, wait.
I will.
Hey, don't waste that hand sanitizer. No, don't.
What?
Ugh, now really that was stupid, wasteful thing to do. I don't like that. I lent you that hand sanitizer. How could you be so inconsiderate at a time like this?
I beg your pardon. I'll buy you a new one.
Well, you'll never be able to match it. I made it myself from a recipe from Midcoast magazine.
Then you'll have to do without, that's all.
That's not a very nice thing to say after wasting my pet hand sanitizer.
If you knew how near I was to wasting Teddy's pet wife and presenting him with the pieces, you'd be thankful that you're alive instead of howling at 5 cents worth of rubbing alcohol. Damn your hand sanitizer.
Oh, don't you dare swear in my presence. You would think you were my husband.
Oh, this is some dream. This is some horrible dream. What's become of you? You're not my Aurora.
Oh, well, if it comes to that, what's become of you? Do you think I ever would have encouraged you had I known you were such a little devil?
Don't drag me down. Don't. Help me find a way back up to the heights.
Look, if you would just be reasonable, Henry, if you would only remember that I am on the brink of ruin and not go on calmly saying it's all quite simple.
It seems so to me.
If you say that again, I shall do something I'll be sorry for. Here we are, standing on the edge of a frightful precipice. No doubt it's quite simple to go over and have done with it, but can you suggest anything more agreeable?
I can suggest nothing now. A chill, black darkness has fallen. I can see nothing but the ruin of our dreams.
Can't you? Well, I can. I can see Georgina rubbing those poems into Teddy. And I tell you, Henry Apjohn, that you got me into this mess and you are going to have to get me out of it again.
All I can say is I'm entirely at your service. What is it you wish me to do?
Do you know anybody else by the name of Aurora?
No.
Well, there's no use in saying no in that frozen pig-headed way. You must know some Aurora or other somewhere.
You said you were the only Aurora in Lincoln County. And oh God, you were the only Aurora in the world for me.
Yes, yes, dear, of course. It's very nice of you, and I do appreciate it. Indeed, I do. But it's not reasonable just at present. Now, just listen to me. I suppose you know all the poems by heart.
Yes, by heart. By heart, yes. I know them by heart. Don't you?
Well, I never can remember verses. And besides, I've been very busy. So busy that I haven't had time to read them all, actually. Although I intended to at the very first moment. I promise you that most faithfully, Henry. But now, try and remember very particularly. Does the name of Bumpus occur in any of the poems?
No.
You're quite sure?
Of course I'm quite sure. How could I use such a name in a poem?
Well, I don't see why not. I mean, it rhymes with rumpus, which seems appropriate at the present moment. Goodness knows. However, you're the poet, you ought to know.
Well, what does it matter now?
It matters a lot, I can tell you. If there's nothing about Bumpus in the poems, we can say that they were written to some other Aurora, and you showed them to me because my name was Aurora too. So you've got to invent another Aurora for the occasion.
If you wish me to tell a lie.
Well, surely, as a man of honor, as a gentleman, you wouldn't tell the truth, would you?
Very well. You've broken my spirit and desecrated my dreams. I will lie and protest and stand on my honor. I will play the gentleman, never fear.
Yes, put it all on me, of course. Don't be mean, Henry.
You're quite right, Mrs. Bumpus. I beg your pardon. You must excuse my temper. I've got growing pains, I think.
Growing pains?
Yeah. The process of growing from romantic boyhood into cynical maturity usually takes 15 years. When it's compressed into 15 minutes, the pace is too fast and growing pains are the result.
Oh, is this a time for cleverness? It's settled, isn't it, that you're going to be nice and good and that you'll brazen it out to Teddy that you have some other Aurora.
Yes, I'm capable of anything now. I should not have told the truth by halves. Now I will not lie by halves. I will wallow in the honor of a gentleman.
Dearest boy, I knew you would. Oh my.
What is it?
Teddy, he's about to join our Zoom meeting from his office. He can't have anything serious on his mind or he wouldn't be joining us. Perhaps Georgina hasn't said anything. Try to act natural.
For heaven's sake, Miss Bumpus, calm down.
Hello? Hello? I thought you two were watching a movie.
I felt anxious about you, Teddy. Why didn't you come home to dinner?
I got a message from Georgina. She wanted me to call her.
Oh, poor dear Georgina. I am so sorry. I haven't been able to call on her this last week. I hope there's nothing the matter with her.
Nothing except anxiety for my welfare and yours. By the way, Apjohn, I should like a word with you this evening if Aurora can spare you for a moment.
I'm at your service.
No hurry. After the movie will do.
Oh, we've decided not to watch one.
Indeed. Well then, shall we have our conversation now?
You don't need to arrange another Zoom. I'll go take off my pearls.
Well, we'll have plenty of privacy then.
Well, I should prefer plenty of privacy.
So if it's not disturbing you, Rory?
Not at all.
Do these manuscripts seem at all familiar to you, may I ask?
What manuscripts?
Yes, would you like to have a look at them a little closer?
Why, these are my poems.
So I gather.
Oh my goodness. Mrs. Bumpus has shown them to you. You must think me an utter ass. I wrote them years ago after reading Swinburne's Songs Before Sunrise. Nothing would do me then, but I must reel off a set of songs to the sunrise. Aurora, you know, the rosy-fingered Aurora. They're all about Aurora. When Mrs. Bumpus told me her name was Aurora, I couldn't resist the temptation to lend them to her to read. But I did not bargain on your unsympathetic eyes.
John, how very ready of you. You are cut out for literature, and the day will come when Rory and I will be proud to have you in our little bubble. But I have heard far thinner stories from much older men.
Do you mean to imply that you don't believe me?
Do you expect me to believe you?
Well, why not? I don't understand.
Come on. Don't underrate your own cleverness, John. I think you understand pretty well.
I assure you I'm at quite a loss. Can you be a little more explicit?
Don't overdo it. However, I will be just so far explicit as to say that if you think these poems read as if they were addressed not to a live woman, but to a shivering cold time of day at which you were never out of bed in your life, you hardly do justice to your own literary powers, which I admire and appreciate, mind you, as much as any man. Come on, own up. You wrote these poems to my wife.
Well,
of course you did.
Mr. Bumpus, I pledge you my word you're mistaken. I need not tell you that Mrs. Bumpus is a lady of stainless honour who has never cast an unworthy thought on me. The fact that she has shown you the poems, however...
That's not a fact. I came by them without her knowledge. She didn't show them to me.
Well, doesn't that prove their perfect innocence? She would have shown them to you at once if she had known your view of them.
John, play fair. Don't abuse your intellectual gifts. Do you really mean that I'm making a fool of myself?
Believe me, you are. I assure you, on my honour as a gentleman, that I have never had the slightest feeling for Mrs. Bumpus, beyond the ordinary esteem and regard of a pleasant acquaintance.
Oh, indeed.
I should never have dreamt of writing poems to her. The thing is absurd.
Why is it absurd?
Well, it happens that I do not admire Mrs. Bumpus in that way.
Let me tell you that Mrs. Bumpus has been admired by better men than you dopey-headed little puppy, you.
Well, there's no need to insult me like this. I assure you, on my honour, as a...
You don't admire Mrs. Bumpus. You would never dream of writing poems to Mrs. Bumpus. My wife's not good enough for you, is she, Who are you, pray, that you should be so damn superior?
Mr. Bumpus, I can make allowances for your jealousy.
Jealousy? Do you suppose I'm jealous of you? No, nor of 10 like you. But if you think I'll sit here and let you insult my wife, you're mistaken.
Well, how can I convince you? Be reasonable. I tell you of my relations with Mrs. Bumpus are of a perfect coldness, of indifference.
Oh, say it again. Say it again. You're proud of it, aren't you? Yeah, you're not worth kicking.
Oh, look here. I'm not going to stand this.
Oh, you do have some blood in your body after all. Good job.
This is ridiculous. I assure you, Mrs. Bumpus is...
What is Mrs. Bumpus to you? I'd like to know. I'll tell you what Mrs. Bumpus is. She's the smartest woman in the smartest set in mid-coast Maine, and the handsomest, and the cleverest, and the most fetching to experienced men who know a good thing when they see it, whatever she may be to conceited, pusillanimous puppies who know nothing good enough for them. It's admitted by the best people, and not to know it argues yourself unknown. 3 first-rate agents have offered to sign her if she joins the cast of their new reality TV show, and I think they know what they're about as well as you. The only member of the governor's cabinet that you might call a handsome man has neglected the business of the state to dance with her, though he doesn't belong to our set as a regular thing. One of the foremost professional poets in the Northeast wrote a sonnet to her, worth all your amateur trash. At Pumpkin Fest last season, the eldest son of a state senator excused himself from visiting me on the grounds that his feelings for Mrs. Bumpus were not consistent with his duty to me as a host, and it did him honor and me too. But she isn't good enough for you, it seems. You regard her with coldness, with indifference, and you have the cool cheek to tell me so to my face? For $2, I'd flatten your nose in to teach you manners. Introducing a fine woman to you is casting pearls before swine. Before swine, you hear?
You call me a swine again and I'll break quarantine and show up at your house. Knock some sense into you.
What?
You shan't, Teddy! You shan't! You'll be killed! He's a prize fighter!
I'll prize fight him.
Henry, promise you will fight. Henry, where are you?
The most frightful bump on the back of my head.
Promise, both of you promise. Teddy, promise not to fight. Be good, both of you.
I won't, unless he takes it back.
He will. He does. Henry, take it back, yes?
Yes, I take it back. Take it all back. Without reserve.
Good. Now let's all forget this whole thing and be good.
I shall do nothing of the sort. I've steeped myself in lies for your sake. The only reward I get is a lump on the back of my head the size of an apple. Now I will go back to the straight path.
For heaven's sake, Henry.
No use. Your husband is a fool and a brute.
What's that you say?
Say you're a fool and a brute. If you meet me outside, I'll say it again. Those poems were written to your wife, every word of them, and to no one else. I wrote them to her because I loved her. I thought her the most beautiful woman in the world. I told her so over and over again. I adored her. Do you hear? I told her you were a sordid commercial chump, utterly unworthy of her, and so you are.
You don't mean it.
Yes, I do. And a lot more too. You know, I asked Mrs. Bumpus to leave with me, to leave you, to get divorced from you, and marry me. I begged her, and I implored her to do it this very night. It was her refusal that ended everything between us. What she sees in you, goodness only knows.
My dear fellow, why didn't you say so before? I apologize. Come, don't bear malice. Let's be friends. Make him be friends, Rory.
Oh, for my sake, Henry. After all, he is my husband. Forgive him. Be friends.
Okay.
You've got to own that none of your literary heroines can touch my Rory. Hey, Rory? They can't resist you. None of them. Never knew a man yet that could hold out 3 days.
Don't be foolish, Teddy. I hope you're not really hurt, Henry.
What?
Poor boy. You must have quite a bump. You should get some ice for it, maybe?
Will you do me a great favor, Apjohn? I hardly like to ask, but it would be a real kindness to us both.
What can I do?
Well, may I get these printed? It shall be done in the best style, the finest paper, sumptuous binding, everything first class. They're beautiful poems. I'd like to show them about a bit.
Oh, Henry, if you wouldn't mind.
I don't mind. I'm past minding anything now. I've grown old too fast this evening.
How old are you, Henry, and what are you planning to do after college?
I hear there's a great future in plastics. Ah, confound it, I'm quoting that film again.
Well, what shall we call the volume? To Aurora or something like that, huh?
I should call it How He Lied to Her Husband.